So you all should have gotten an email from me a couple of days ago with a reminder about this meeting, and in it is a link to this slide deck, this Google slide deck. We don't have access to chat anymore, so if you want to open this and use it as a chat tool, we have the Q&A slide on the second one. Please feel free to access this slide deck and type in there to communicate with us. Or, of course, we're a very informal group, so just come off mute at any point and speak up. We would love to hear what you have to say. All right, so welcome. It's been a while, so Happy New Year. We're already into February with spring right around the corner. So go ahead and talk about the presentation today. We're going to be introducing this beautiful draft document that we have compiled for you guys. The office has been working to pull in all of the organize all of your great input and work, background materials into a tool that we think will be really useful. And we've had a wonderful graphic designer laying it out for us. Thank you, Diane, over the past month. So let me go ahead and go into the agenda. We'll take a moment to share any partner updates. Be thinking about what are your recent wins for equitable climate action and resilience? Or do you have something that you'd like to share with the group? We haven't met since November and a lot's been going on. So I'd love to reconnect with everyone, hear what you have going on. I think someone needs to mute. I hear some background noise. All right. Then we'll kind of review where we've been, and then the presentation is going to be introducing the draft Climate Action Plan 2030. That's the formal name of this document that we're launching. It's the RVAgreen 2050 initiative, and then all of our prioritized strategies are rolled up into this Climate Action Plan 2030. So then we'll have some space for discussion and about the engagement and advocacy work that's coming up, and we'll wrap up with some next steps. So the objectives today are to review and discuss any questions on the whole planning process and where we are, where we've been, where we're going, orient you to the PDF document, and Brianne will kind of walk you through the Conveyo draft so that you can review it on your own and put in your own comments. And then we'll be talking about the next stage, which is the launch of the engagement period later this spring, and hearing some great ideas and your interest in helping, should you have that capacity. This is a great group. I am not seeing any new names. Bettina from Department of Energy is joining us in place of Robin Jones, who retired. So we're happy to have you with us today, Bettina. But this is, like I said, a very informal group. And Bettina, did you want to introduce yourself?
No, that's all. Yeah, people might not recognize my name, and I'm just filling in for Robin. So really glad to be here. Thanks, Dawn.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here. Okay, so this is where I would love to hear from you. If you have something to share, and Bettina, this would be a space for you to talk about the other side of what you've been working on around all of this great energy efficiency and greenhouse gas reductions opportunities. But really anyone who has been working on something or knows of something coming up that you'd like to share, please feel free to speak up, or you can go into this slide deck and click on a sticky note and enter it yourself. Julie, did you have something?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I can I can only work on the slide deck from my phone because I can't access Google Drive from my laptop,
Okay.
my work laptop. But I want to let everybody know that the SEC approved phase 2 of Dominion Energy's grid transformation proposals. And what that means is improvements for both our AMI metering and our customer information platform. And I think the way that kind of translates to kind of equity and resiliency is that people will be getting more information on how they use energy or when they're using energy. And it also helps Dominion support distributed energy resources like solar, EV chargers, battery storage, those kinds of things. It gives us the ability to kind of improve on our ability to manage the grid in the context of those activities. So we were happy for that win. That AMI metering, advanced metering infrastructure, if you all aren't familiar with that, is basically a meter that collects energy usage on like a 15-minute interval instead of a monthly interval. And also what that allows us to do is to develop more robust time of use rates like interday, seasonal, etc., which also helps us make the grid more efficient. And that customer information platform also allows us to provide that information more robustly back to our customers. So I'll
Excellent.
pause there and see if anyone has questions. I think Alan might have a question for me.
Nope, no question. I was going to mention another equitable win, which is just to say that a similar statewide and regional electrification project that Virginia Energy is running has produced a series of additional data tools that are public and accessible for the Richmond area and nationwide. And I'm also just very excited about the continuing rollout of guidance from the federal J40 environmental justice guidance and pilots. They've rolled that recently into infrastructure programs and other really good stuff. And there should be some great opportunities to coordinate those programs with this climate resiliency program for transportation fuel switch or other activities. So I just wanted to maybe share those notes.
Excellent. Thanks, Alan. And Julie with Dominion, thank you for all of that great information. To both of you, if you wanted to email me any of this information or include links on the slides, then I can send that out as a follow-up to the group. So thank you for that. Shelley, I see you today. How are you?
Dawn, before you move on from Dominion, and I don't know if they want to announce it, but I'm happy to, is that the construction of the solar array on the parking deck down in Tredegar either has started or should be starting any day, which is pretty exciting for such a major piece of sustainable infrastructure in downtown.
Nice. Thank you.
I don't know all the details on that. I've heard about it, but I didn't know we were getting started, so thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. I've been helping them sort of with the community engagement, and we had a meeting. It was really cold. Second week of January. So I have a feeling that they've voted.
Great. Thank you. All right, Jeff, did you have something you want to share?
Real quick, in one of our other working groups, in the Building and Energy Working Group, we have Andrew Grigsby from Viridian, formerly Earthcraft Homes, I believe. I might be making that up. But I'm encouraging everybody. I was kind of basically what they'll do, they'll come in and they'll do a whole home energy audit. So if you want to do improvements, or even if you're a renter, it's $65, and they will come and give you a plan to make your home more energy efficient, install LED light bulbs and all the fixtures that they can get them into. And they are extremely responsive, and it will save you money in the short term and the long term. So I encourage everybody to do the same. You just fill out a form on their website and he gets back to you. he got back to me the next day. So schedule it, and it's not a lot of money, and it can save you a heck of a lot of money. So I encourage everybody to do that.
Yeah, and I thought what was interesting about his report is that, all those individuals add up. So they did 135 audits, I think, last year, and that adds up to be some really good energy savings for our footprint. So thank you for bringing that up. All right, who else?
When I share those other links, I'll also share a couple links. We have a TCO tool, total cost of ownership for an EV versus an internal combustion engine on our website. And then
Great.
we have an EV charger rebate program. And we do have some electric vehicle, we'll call them rate cases or proposals with the state corporation that have not been approved yet. But if they do get approved, I will share them with you, but it is progress towards additional options and opportunities for our customers.
Yes, thank you so much. Great information. Barbara Jacobs.
Jaycox.
Mhm.
Thank you very much. I also have a colleague here, Dan Mata, who worked very hard on a team that we've been working for the last 2 years to update the regional bike ped plan. And this is for, the city of Richmond, surrounding counties, the 9 jurisdictions that we serve. And it was just uploaded yesterday for public comment. We're entering a public comment period from February 9th to March 23rd. And it can be viewed at bikeped.rva.org. And we'd encourage everyone to take a look.
Great. Good timing. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, good stuff. I love all this. There's so much work going on out there. Any more?
I'd
All
like
right,
to
I'm
share.
going to bring it up. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I can actually drop this in the chat at some point, but we just released a policy toolkit that can be utilized by legislators at local, state, and federal levels. It's centered around electrification and accelerating electrification and e-mobility, and kind of really breaking down what all of that lingo is in a way that is both engaging and hopefully palatable to the legislators, the different key stakeholders and decision makers. We found that in having different meetings with that audience, that there's still a lot of misconceptions about e-mobility and electrification and what that really means and what the benefits are to their constituents. So that was kind of the impetus for this document. So we're trying to share it with as many people as possible, because it hopefully will be a really great learning tool and resource for those individuals who are making decisions about what happens with infrastructure dollars and other funding around e-mobility and electrification.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yes, I think
Well.
every single one of us could use that. Thank you. And Barbara, were you going to say something else? I know this platform's awkward.
No, thanks. I just realized my hand was still up.
Okay.
I just removed it.
All right. Thanks. And Angela?
Yeah, so I don't work directly. I'm the roundtable member, so I'm here representing the community. But I just wanted to lift up that the GRTC announcement of being fare free is super exciting for me until 2025. That will hopefully bring incentives for individuals to take public transportation. And then on a personal note, I've just purchased an EV, a very inexpensive old one. So any rebates or information that you have about having a home charger, because right now I'm putting a cord through my laundry room and I'm learning about those barriers that people face with switching to EV. So it's given me an amazing perspective. You have to be so intentional. And it's older, so it only gets 50 miles to the charge. So I'm working through that. personally, and this is just a plug because I'm super excited about it, and because I work on this RVA Green initiative, helped is I'm a strategic planner, and we just landed a strategic plan to do a strategic plan for the the Center for International Environmental Law. So I'm really hoping that my perspective here will translate into assisting them with meeting their goals over the next 3 years. But yes, I don't work for an organization, so I'm going to be the layman asking questions for those of you that are new to here.
Love it. Thank you. Yes, that's very exciting. And I did the same thing. I got that electric vehicle a couple of years ago just to, see what you can't really understand those barriers until you have one. And you do have to be very intentional. So I'm excited about, I think it's going to be a big swing up. Of course, I'm hopeful, but very soon so that it's easier. Dan, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly jump on the EV bandwagon to talk about a maybe forgotten EV mode. But this month or last month marked 1 year since I have been primarily using my e-bike for transportation. It's been revolutionary for my life personally and has allowed me to get rid of my car. So I just wanted to plug electric bikes as a very important electric vehicle that is definitely more scalable due to the cost that's associated with them. So just plugging those.
Great. Thank you. Brandon?
Yeah, yeah. Just speaking about the e-bikes, and I put it over in the slides. But with RVA Bike Share, we're on pace this year to convert 100% of our fleet to electric bikes. So we're thinking and doing that and expanding the station map that a lot more people will say, if it's 5 minutes in my car, I can just get an e-bike. It's much easier to pedal up the hills and stuff in certain parts of the city. So we're really excited to get that done in 2022.
Fantastic. Thank you. Julie, did you have something else?
Yeah, so I wanted to add to the e-bike conversation because I think they're going to be more and more prevalent. But some of the discussion I've heard in the Northern Virginia counties is kind of around like, where is their e-bike infrastructure, like to secure your personal e-bike and then to also charge it at the same time at transit locations. So like you take your bike, to the rapid transit, then you get on that and you don't have to worry about whether or not your bike got stolen or if it's got a charge when you get back. There's a couple like racking companies that are doing that. I don't know. There just might be some accommodation in there that you all might want to be thinking about from the transit perspective.
Thank you. Anyone else? You guys win the prize because this is our 4th working group meeting this week, and you by far had the most wins to share. So yay for transportation and mobility. Please continue to add any notes on this page or email them to me, and I'll be sure to include them in the follow-up to everybody so we can share all this great information and links. But thanks again for all that you're doing. We're all in this together. All right.
So Dawn, sorry, I wanted to add to what Shelley was saying about the infrastructure dollars. With the passing of the bipartisan infrastructure law, and I'm not by any means an expert on this, but there's a lot of kind of formula funding going to programs that will be significantly increased. And the ones that I've seen, like RAISE grants, infra, which are intermodal grants. I'm not an expert in federal transportation dollars, so SIG is another one. And then just transit in general, right? There's a big emphasis on clean energy solutions that even to like locations of EV chargers or different types of electric, clean mobility, etc. That I'm not sure if you all are aware of, but it's coming fast and furious. And I'll let Shelley go because she probably knows more than I do.
So I heard that let Shelley go because that she probably knows more than you do. What I do know is actually some of our team members are in DC today because I believe that there's an announcement coming that's going to provide more guidance in terms of what the infrastructure dollar look like per state. So that's happening, I believe, today. And if it doesn't happen today, don't say you heard it from me. But I know it's coming. I know it's coming. So let's see. That's kind of all that I've heard so far. But I know that like we've been working on some other project with cities, and folks are starting to try to kind of get positioned for either soliciting feedback from community partners and community residents in terms of like opportunities to provide feedback on how infrastructure resources should be spent, whether it's looking at placement of charging infrastructure, or it's utilizing building out charging hubs, or focusing on rideshare electrification and rideshare pilots. So those are just kind of some of the things that are bubbling to the top in some of the other cities' work that we're doing.
Fantastic. Okay, great. So I feel like we're already into implementation here. So let me just catch up with all this great work that's going on out in the field. So up until now, we've been putting all our strategies and draft plan together. We've been in this plan development orange stage for a long time, but we're building support for finalization and adoption and approval. So that's really where we are. So I'll be reviewing the draft plan and providing feedback, or we will all be doing that. The working groups and staff and leadership within the city providing feedback, and then we will be launching our public engagement period. And so that's going to happen in April to May, and then June to July we'll be finalizing that plan content, and then seeking approval and adoption in the late summer, early fall. So we're getting there, super close. This is what the plan looks like at this point. As I said before, this is the RVAgreen 2050 initiative, and the document that we're presenting is the Climate Equity Action Plan 2030. So that's where we landed on that. Here's the table of contents, and it is a long document. These usually are. We try to keep it as concise and clear, and the graphics and the layouts are very readable. Lots of white space, lots of pictures, and very accessible. But just to kind of steer you or point to the sections, all this 1 through 6 is really the background information on the plan. So the vision and what got us here, and what climate equity is, what climate action is, what climate resilience is, what our planning process has looked like. And this is really all of that, documenting this process and this information of where we are today. And it'll be really useful for all of our stakeholders, getting new people up to speed, new implementation partners. It's information for grant proposals, all kinds of good background information. But the section that's going to be especially information or important to you guys is this transportation and mobility chapter. So under the 2030 action plan, that's really that's what we're calling the meat of the plan. That is all the work that you guys have been doing. So we have been organizing it. Like I said, the graphic designer has been working on this for the past month, and that's where we are now. So just to kind of pull you back, since we haven't been together since November, and remind you that these are the 3 objectives that this working group came up with. The first one is basically leading by example with our municipal fleet and municipal operations, and increasing resilience and stewardship of our transportation infrastructure, the things that the city has control over. And then the second objective are those 3 strategies that have to do with creating vibrant neighborhoods where all residents can easily ride transit, walk, or bike to meet daily needs in alignment with Richmond Connects. Aligning this work with all the other plans out there is essential. And then the third objective is transitioning the community rapidly and equitably to clean fuel vehicles and transit. So those were the 3 objectives that you guys prioritized. Let me just catch up with you. And so this is what the guide to the 2030 action plan looks like. And I know this is very busy, so bear with me and I'll walk you through it. Okay, so what you're looking at is an example page from the Buildings and Energy group with their objective and outcomes and strategies on the left, and on the right is a strategy page with the actions underneath. So I'll take you into a transportation page, but just so you can see, this is every strategy has its own page. And then underneath on this guide to the 2030 action plan key, we have the explanations of what all the symbols mean and what all the elements of the page are. So the actions are the first column. The status is whether it's ongoing. So in this case, converting all city-owned streetlights to LED is ongoing. And then the ones with a check mark means it's ready to go. And then if there's an X next to it, it probably means that it requires some kind of legislation or more formal city action before we can start working on that project. The cost ranges, you'll remember last summer we did the funding and financing maps as part of the implementation worksheets. And these ranges are really looking at all the strategies together and all the pathways, and researching other localities and how much they've spent, looking at best practices, doing, they're just estimates, but it's the best guess at this point of where the action might fall in terms of the amount of money between now and 2030 to get that action done. So that's what the $ means. It's just kind of a helpful resource. And then, of course, the last 3, and the timeline, we kind of lumped them into near and far. So if it's 2022 to 2026, it means we're ready to budget and work on it now. It's a near term, ready to go, high impact, or it's already underway. If it's something that requires more planning, we're not quite there legislatively or for any reason, it's in the 2026 to 2030 timeline. But that's what that column is about. And then the final 3 are the impacts on greenhouse gas reductions, the resilience components, and our community priorities are in the equity column. So this page is just a reference tool so people can orient themselves to all the elements of the strategy pages, and we're hoping that that's fairly easy to understand. Any questions yet? All right, so just to pull back and show you some example pages from transportation and mobility. So you're familiar with your pathway and your tagline. You've seen that from the beginning, and the 3 objectives in this pathway are listed on the first page. And then the second, that leads to the next page, which each outcome or objective has its own page. And on the objective page, it lists which outcomes we're going to see as a result of the successful implementation of that objective. Those outcomes were the result of all that great work you guys did last summer on the impact mapping activity that was kind of mind-boggling, but it was very helpful for lots of reasons. So these 12 outcomes are what we want to see in Richmond at the end of a successful implementation of this action plan. So this objective in particular, municipal fleet, will lead towards the ones in orange. And then again, the strategies are listed underneath there that fall under that objective. And then the next page, that page will lead to each of the individual strategies built out on their own pages. We got some artwork by a VCU art class under Barry O'Keefe, so that's kind of fun. But the elements on this page, so this strategy name is Transportation Demand Management, and then the language, explanatory language, is underneath. And then at our last meeting in November, when we did that City Hall public comment kind of mock session, we used all of the great feedback we got from the pathways to put this context together. So if someone's not familiar with what transportation demand management is or why it's even important, this will hopefully give a little more context to that strategy. And so then, like I said before, underneath are the 2 actions that you guys prioritized for that strategy, what the status is, what the city steward is. I'm sorry, I skipped over that in the key explanation, but this is the department that would be the champion for that action. And they'll be responsible for gathering the teams together and championing the work of that action. So that's what the strategy page looks like. The web version of this will be even more accessible with hopefully some hovering and definitions. But this is as detailed as the strategies within the plan are going to get. Now, if you'll remember, you guys did a ton of brainstorming on potential financing mechanisms, implementation partners, equitable next steps. All of that great information is going to be shared with the implementation partners, championed by the city steward. And in the appendix, we will have the worksheets, the template for that, and more of that information and how it was generated. And then I'll ask Brianne to speak up to the online version of this, the dashboard, since I mentioned it.
Sure. So just I hear an echo. Okay, gone. Just really quickly, I think we mentioned this at the last set of meetings, but simultaneously to working on this document version, we are also creating a web-based interactive platform where anyone can access the content in this plan in hopefully a faster and more user-friendly way. So it's going to be based around the 12 outcomes of the plan, which you'll see again in a few more slides. And when someone clicks on an outcome based on like their personal interest, they will see some additional information. So for example, among our 12 outcomes, one of them is improved air quality. So if someone comes to this landing page and says, I'm interested in air quality, they'll see information on what that means, that outcome, the objectives within RVAgreen 2050 that are supporting that outcome, and then they can click from there into like the strategies under each objective. It'll also have how we are measuring the indicators to assess progress towards that outcome. And then I believe the final piece, or one of the other pieces, is how can I, get involved? Like, how can I take direct action on this today in my home or workplace or community to help achieve this outcome? So we will have that hopefully ready for some user testing in the next couple of months. I'm excited to get everybody's feedback on that as well.
Great, thanks, Brianne. And Julie, I see your hand. Did you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, and I'm sorry I didn't know this before like 2 weeks ago. But I'm not sure if you guys are aware, the Department around Public Transit has commuter resources to support transportation demand management for commuters as well as like maybe companies or corporations that might want to encourage their employees to commute in a different way versus a single occupancy vehicle. But one of the things I recently saw that they have that I thought was fantastic is an app called Commute VA, and it's a commuter matching service, plus kind of integrates with other transportation providers all the way through all the way through like public transportation and how you can get to work. I think the shortcoming for them was that they launched it like right in right when the pandemic started. So they probably haven't gotten a lot of traction on it. But I can tell you, well, I can't tell you, but I'm wondering if like companies don't understand that those resources are available to them. And maybe one of the strategies could be that you all, as home of certain corporations that have their headquarters or large employee segments, could help them understand that these resources are available to them and that they could pursue this traveling smart to work approach.
Yes, thank you so much. That is great information. And that gets at what one of the things we are asking for is those kinds of implementation tools and new ideas and legislation, new opportunities, because that we're collecting all of that in that massive database. And that's what will be handed off to the teams that are going to be implementing these strategies. This one in particular, I believe, is City of Richmond, buildings and staff, but there is another one, I believe, that gets at the broad community. But either way, that is important. So I see that someone put it in the notes, and we'll be sure to capture that in the background materials for these strategies. Thanks. Okay, so any other questions on this page? Okay, so maybe now, Brian, do you want to walk through Conveyo? And I'll stop sharing. Do you have that up?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So we will talk more about this in a few slides as well in terms of what's next. But what we're going to be asking of everyone on the working groups as well as the roundtable, Angela, just a sneak preview, is to review the plan. It's 178 pages. We are not asking you to review all 178 pages. What we are asking, though, is for each working group, for example, to review their relevant content. And at the roundtable meeting, we'll discuss that as well. In addition to any other content that you would like to, obviously. So you will have access to the entire draft document through this platform called Conveyo, which we've used before. We know it's not everyone's favorite tool, but with over 100 people reviewing the same PDF at once, this is the easiest way for us to enable commenting and some conversation, hopefully, within the document. So you'll get a link after the meeting today to this platform. It has just some preliminary information, which we'll go over as well. Just to keep it short here, we are going to be proofreading and copy editing the document professionally, in addition to making some other sort of formatting changes, adding more maps and that sort of thing. So it's not in perfect shape yet. We'll get there, but we don't need you to, unless you would like to, do really detailed review. So the PDF itself is embedded in the Conveyo tool. You have a couple of options of how to view it. You can download it using this button here as a PDF. It is a massive file, so if you choose to do it that way and you want to send us back any comments on the PDF, let us know, because we will need to set up a sharing site to enable you to share that file with us. You can view the PDF right here in Conveyo, just like this. and scroll through the document using either just scrolling, or you can use the table of contents, which is kind of a mess right now. That's our fault because we are not pros at this yet, but you can kind of tell where things are. Like transportation is down here, click on that and it takes you to this section. So you can also, if it's easier for you, depending on your screen size, go full screen and comment using the full screen button right here. So to make a comment, when you hover over the document, your cursor turns into a plus sign, and it's going to ask you for your contact information so that we can follow up with you if we have any questions about your comment. You just type whatever you want, like, great job. Hopefully it's something more substantive, but we appreciate comments as well. Like that, you can suggest, indicate a comment type if you want, but you don't have to. We'll be reviewing everything no matter what it is. And then you just add the comment. As you're looking through the document, if you, you can also view other people's comments. You can also reply to them if you'd like. So if someone asks a question or has a comment and you want to agree or disagree, you can use thumbs up or thumbs down. You can reply with another comment to add on. You're seeing my remove and edit buttons because I'm an administrator for the document. I think so. That's Conveyo. Anybody have any questions about using this tool? And obviously you can let us know if you come across any difficulties. All right, I will stop presenting.
Great, thank you so much, Brianne. Okay, so back to the rest of the document. These last two are new sections to you, the accountability and measuring progress and acting on our shared responsibility. So, you know, just as or more important than all those strategies is that we are actually able to implement them and that we have, we're accountable to the plan and that we can measure the progress of the plan. You can't manage what you can't measure, right? So we've looked at a lot of other cities and what they've used, different organizations, shared accountability frameworks, and we've developed something that we believe is going to be really useful to Richmond and all of our stakeholders and community members. So before I get to the framework, though, let me tell you about measuring progress. I walked you, we mentioned the 12 outcomes. Those are the things that we want to see as a result of the implementation of the plan. So when we went through all that outcomes, outputs, impacts, all that mapping that we did last summer, what we saw was that these 12 concepts floated up. That this is what we want. This is what everybody has said they want to see in a successful plan. They want to see an advanced green economy. They want to see cleaner and more efficient buildings, cleaner and more efficient transportation, a climate-ready community, engaged and involved community, improved air quality, increased flood resilience, increased heat resilience, increased support for climate action and resilience, less landfill waste, lower greenhouse gas emissions, and more green space and trees. So all of the strategies across all of the pathways, you know, kind of float up under these 12 utopian outcomes. But how do we actually measure the success of those outcomes? We had to come up with the indicators. And again, I think that might have been our August meeting when we walked through indicators. And we decided that there are traditional indicators, and then we also need to make sure that we have an equitable indicator associated with each outcome so that we really are centering equity in this plan. So for cleaner and more efficient transportation, it was kind of tricky because we wanted to make sure that it was something that we could measure that would kind of touch the overarching goal of the transportation pathway. And so using US Census data, the indicator is that tracking the percentage of travel or mode share, not with single occupancy internal combustion engine vehicles. That's the traditional indicator to show that we are making advances and progress toward cleaner and more efficient transportation. But then how do we get it equity in that indicator? that is looking at census data and GRTC data that tracks the percentage of population within a 10-minute walk of a fixed route transit stop with amenities by race and ethnicity. So as we measure those two together and we show progress, we believe that that will indicate our success of that outcome. So any questions at this point on the outcomes and indicators? Okay. So then next is the framework itself. So the purpose of this framework is to make sure that we are ensuring that this plan doesn't sit on a shelf. We've been very intentional about this being useful, something that it's a tool for all of you to use and for all of our stakeholders to use. And so we have 5 commitments that this framework is composed of. So a regular evaluation, that's making sure that we're staying on track toward our goal with regular, regularly measuring progress, being sure that we're transparent, publicly communicating the goals and plans and outcomes, and identifying the needs and impacts up front, being very transparent as we've been all along. A culture of improvement. As you know, this whole process has just been very iterative. We learn as we go. We change things up as requested. Making sure that we're always improving is very important, and building those trusting relationships. This isn't just a one-way street sending out information. This is really shoulder to shoulder, building these networks, extending our reach through you and through others. And making that commitment to each other. And then, of course, institutionalizing sustainability in city government. We don't just want these to be buzzwords that we're tacking on to other plans and priorities. We're really integrating this plan into all city departments, all priorities. And the city made the first step towards that by formalizing the Office of Sustainability. So if you hadn't heard, it is now an official department that's going to be in the community development portfolio starting in July. And as we work towards that, we're already seeing the benefits through resources and capacity and just elevating this work. So it's very exciting to see that this work is already being institutionalized. So again, this framework is to answer the questions: are we on track toward equitable implementation? And who is responsible for what through each stage of implementation? And the we is the entire Richmond community. It's not just our office, it's not just city government, it's not just the working groups, it's really everyone working together. And being really clear about those actors. Okay, so then this is what the framework looks like graphically to really spell out those 5 components of the circle. They're guiding commitments of that shared accountability framework. Each stakeholder plays a role in ensuring that each commitment is upheld. And this way, the community could say, all right, this department said that they were going to be showcasing this annually, and why isn't it being done? This is just being really transparent about who's accountable for what. So walking through the actors of this shared accountability framework, we have the Office of Sustainability. I mentioned that we are becoming our own department. We're responsible for championing this plan, stewarding the implementation teams, and the primary convener of the plan. Lots of other roles underneath there. And then the implementation teams will be the ones, hopefully most of you will be on teams and you'll be willing to partner to move this work forward using the equity screening tool, providing updates to the Office of Sustainability. So for example, if someone in the community said, well, are the implementation teams using the equity screening tool and how, we would be accountable to say yes and and show how that was used, or the climate equity index, and providing those updates to our office at regular intervals. So each actor or stakeholder is gonna be accountable to different elements to ensure this shared accountability. The Racial Equity and Environmental Justice Roundtable that Angela is on and has represented us with is going to continue on to update the Equitable Implementation Guide and create the annual report using the framework, committing to meetings and staggered terms and all of the pieces that they are responsible for. The mayor and CAO obviously have their areas that they're responsible for. City Council, the Planning Commission. This plan is going to be adopted into the Richmond 300 Master Plan, so that'll just make it even more institutionalized, give it more teeth. There'll be regular reports and updates, and the Green City Commission will play a role, and then the Richmond community at large will be involved. So this is this really, pulls everyone into the conversation and the solution. And I hope that I hope you guys see that as well and agree. Any questions on the shared accountability framework? All right, so just to back up a little bit on that accountability with the city staff and leadership review in March, we will be presenting a draft to the mayor's office, the CAO, and the city council for early review. That's a lesson learned from Richmond 300. So, because as you may have heard, council submitted a list of amendments after adoption. So we want to make sure that they're aware of this work early on, and that the people in their districts, let them know that people want to see this. We're really making sure that we're being intentional. We're learning from our lessons, and like I said, this will be incorporated into the Richmond 300 Master Plan. So with that, the only other piece I wanted to point out are the appendices. This is all of the extra stuff that we need to keep in there for documentation. So of course, the definitions and acronyms are very important, and strategy implementation guide and template that I mentioned before with all that background material. The full list of strategies prior to prioritization. If you'll remember, we originally had 188 strategies, and we used all of those weighted criteria to reduce the list. But the full list, we didn't say that we were going to lose anything. So that is all in the appendix. For future iterations of the plan, we'll be referring back to that. And then the climate vulnerability and risk assessment will be in the appendix, the equity screening tool, the equity assessment, the greenhouse gas emissions modeling deliverables, the community engagement and outreach process detail, the 2018 greenhouse gas emissions inventory that is being used as in this plan, and then the detailed methodologies for plan content sections. So that's the impact mapping and the funding and financing mechanisms and the strategy prioritization matrix. All of that work is going to be spelled out or documented in the appendix. And then the 2 city council resolutions supporting climate action. We have the climate emergency resolution and the net zero resolution. So that's all in the appendix. So hopefully this will be a great tool for folks to refer back to with lots of lessons learned, so that we can build on this in the future. So with that, any questions? Julie.
Hey, Dawn. So in your list of stakeholder engagement, I didn't really see like anyone, like the business community in there. Did I miss that?
The Richmond community?
The business community in Richmond.
Well, so Brianne, maybe you want to speak to the shared accountability framework because you're more familiar with each of these.
Yeah, so I think I would, so the shared accountability framework is really around like setting out a structure for ensuring implementation of this plan. It does obviously relate to community engagement, but I would say community engagement in general is like a related but separate piece of this that we're going to talk about as well. In terms of the business community, I see the business community fitting in several ways here. One is on the implementation teams. So as we identify, you know, based on the prioritization matrix, based on community priorities, which strategies we want to get started on first, we will identify stakeholders and put out calls for opportunities to participate on those teams. And that will include the business community, both in terms of like sectors, but also like small businesses and that sort of thing. And then I would also say that in general, when we refer to like the Richmond community as being part of the accountability framework, that would include the business community as well. And we have several strategies in the plan around engaging businesses and institutions. So that's the shared accountability framework. And then we're going to talk more about the community engagement for the plan in the next like section. And I think that's a great point to bring up around engaging the business community in this next like phase of the plan.
Yeah, well
Okay,
said.
great. Yeah, I was just thinking about it because like Dominion, like other large corporations, a lot of them have these net zero goals and sustainability goals, which can certainly lead to and support this plan.
Absolutely.
And
And
understanding, yeah, and
that's
understanding what they're doing can actually go a long way, I think, to support and maybe even get them to tweak them a little bit in the context of this plan and how they affect the surrounding residents.
yeah, that's a great point. And definitely want to build that into our implementation plans. Craig Caudle, who's our newest Bonner Scholar, I think he was on the waste meeting this morning. I'm not sure if he's here this afternoon, but he is going to be aligning or looking into those sustainability plans with institutions, the colleges, universities, large corporations, agencies, and making sure that we are in alignment. So I think that'll be really interesting, and he'll be with us for the next 3 years. So I'll look forward to more of that. But I think that's a great point, Julie, and something that we want to make sure does not get lost in each step of this. But I do agree with Brianne that the implementation teams, potential focus groups along the way, you know, aligning that work that is already being done, lots of the strategies specifically throughout the pathways speak to businesses and the engagement period. We want to be sure that we're including that as best we can. So if you have any other thoughts, I'd love to hear them. And let me move on to the next part of our discussion, which is what's next. So review of that document in Conveyo is from now until March 11th. So as you're going through, if you see any opportunities for, well, there are kind of 3 different asks. The first one is, does this reflect your work? Do you believe that, you know, what is being presented is what reflects your work? Is it relevant to all of the dialogue that we've had in these working groups? Do you feel a sense of ownership, particularly in the transportation pathway? If we don't hear from you, we'll assume yes. And also, while you're reviewing, to Julie's point, you will be thinking of all kinds of details and resources and good ideas for actually rolling these strategies out. And so we are capturing that, like I said, for implementation. So please, as you're coming up with good ideas like Julie's, make a comment so that we can, or email me so that we can capture that. Was there anything else in terms of the review? All right, so then Oh, yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Sorry, I must have missed this, but were we already sent the Conveo link?
After this meeting, I'm
Okay.
going to email it to you. Yep. So while you're looking at it, in a couple weeks, we'll be sending it out to city staff and leadership for their review and comments as well. And then in mid-March, we'll be to early April, we'll be taking all that feedback and preparing it for the community-wide engagement launch. So that is what's next. The goals for our office are to be transparent and accountable. And so at this point, we're not really looking for new strategies unless you come across something that's just wrong. What we really want are to bring what we heard back to the community, improve climate literacy in the community. We really want the education of this plan, the branding of it. This is going on. This is happening. We want everyone to know about it. And we want to extend our network. So, and reach new audiences, very most important. So building support for adoption is, what we want to see coming out of this, and using any new specific ideas and input during implementation. That's really the level of feedback we're looking for. Those are our goals. And then at this point, I would love to hear, in terms of the community-wide engagement, general reflections or thoughts or ideas that you might have. How have you been engaging the community recently in this paradigm that we're living in? Have you seen any really successful methods that you think we should consider that might not be quite as traditional? Do you have any events or campaigns or something coming up that we could align with in that April to May timeframe? Where do you think we should put our energy? We're a small team and limited resources, but we really want to make sure that everything we do is as effective as possible. So with an eye towards advocacy and, adopting the plan later this year, where do you think our energy would be best spent? And then can you anticipate any potential hurdles or blind spots as we move toward adoption? That idea to make sure that council sees it early and isn't surprised at the end, to prevent amendments after the fact. That's one area that we're trying to address early. And then can you think of any specific questions or information that you think we should get out during this engagement launch? Any questions or information that we should promote to encourage an engaged community? So with all of that, I'd love to hear some thoughts and feedback.
Dawn, this is Diane.
Hi.
Hi. I'm wondering if there's just a number of different groups, like I'm thinking Capital Trail and Capital Trees, that send out newsletters or e-news on a regular basis that you might get them to post, or use that to make people aware that they can be involved somehow.
Mm-hmm. Yep, great. Any events going on this spring that you guys can think of that we would want to align with?
There must be an Earth Day event, wouldn't there be? That's April, isn't it?
Okay, well, with that, if you do have any ideas, we'd love to hear them. So there's a survey, and I think the link, I'll be sending it out to you afterwards, or you can go back to the first slide if you have this open, the slide deck open, and there's a link that says volunteer survey. And what that looks like is your ideas, your interest in helping in specific areas. You're not necessarily committing to anything major, just a willingness to help in some way. We had a lot of great, if you'll remember last fall, we sent out a volunteer survey and we had a handful of awesome volunteers who did help with a lot of the editing and finding different materials that we used in the plan. So this is just another kind of extra ask if you want to get involved a little deeper in the next phase of this plan development and engagement. So anything else on the volunteer survey or ideas for engagement? And Julie, I see your hand up. Did you have something?
So Dawn, when you say events, do you mean like River Rock?
Good idea.
I think I've honestly, I kind of lost track of when it was because of COVID. But I think it's in the spring this year.
Great.
I think it's Friday, May 20th. And Friday, May 20th. Keep our fingers crossed. Right. I don't like, are you thinking like you all could have a booth there, or there's a lot of proactive people that come to River Rock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're just collecting ideas at this point. Whatever, in the end, it seems like the most bang for our buck, right?
Yeah, so I think right now we're really in the, just like collecting, like Dawn said, collecting all ideas, and then based on like our capacity, responses to the volunteer survey and other volunteers who are able to help us out anytime between May and like April and like adoption. We'll be putting out, calls for specific activities like that. But we will have like materials and things to table at events and that sort of thing to get the word out. So.
Great. We'll keep the ideas.
Great. Just to clarify, from what you said, Brian, you said more bang for your buck. So is there like an actual, is there a budget for this, or is that just a figure of speech?
Yeah, so we're figuring out that right now, actually. Okay. As you know, Angela, our budget is very limited. We may have more of a budget than last year for things like materials and whatnot. Well, I will know more by our roundtable meeting. We'll also be sharing all of the information around engagement with all of the working groups too, once we have more of a plan and budget solidified. So I'll keep everyone up to date, but I anticipate that we will have, like if folks have opportunities where we wanted to have a poster with a QR code or material, like more door hangers, things like that. I think that we'll be able to do a little bit more this year. Mm-hmm. And then the big part of it, probably in terms of like bang for our buck, is the people time. So yes. I should add that. Yeah.
Yeah. That was
my only, the way that I think of it, like tables and like visibility is always good, but also like partnering with agencies on the ground who are doing work in the communities and seeing if there's like a program. Like for instance, I'm working on designing a pilot for Tool Bank, and this is on the building side of things, but they're trying to implement a program to empower individuals to do their own repairs. And if there was like in the building and energy side, or the building side of RVAgreen, if there was like, how do we get, I know this is outside of transportation, but how do we get homes to be more green and more and have less greenhouse gas? So like partnering with agencies in that way to get the word out, but I don't know what that would look like. That's where my mind was going, in addition to like tabling events, where I've tabled so many events where people kind of pick up and put things away. So it's like the bang part is the tough part, because you don't want, when somebody's at a table, they're getting all this information and you want it to stick. So those are my thoughts. There's really no solution there, but just wanted to share.
That's a great point. Excellent point. Yep. And I think that's what I mean by bang for your buck. We don't want to spin wheels. We really want to make sure that we're getting traction and moving towards adoption and implementation at this point with the greatest reach in the communities that we have not been in traditionally. Okay, so we will be meeting again as it's going to be an all hands on deck, all pathways meeting in April. to share the community engagement information. So it'll be kind of an optional meeting for you guys, but we would love for you to join us when that gets, we get that save the date email out. Then following that is the engagement period that we've been talking about. And then our final meeting is going to be in June, where we will discuss the final plan and discuss the community input and advocating for adoption, and then looking forward toward implementation. So that's what's left. You guys made it this far. Thank you for sticking with us. I hope that you're proud of yourselves because you put so much time and energy, you know, expertise, lived experience, perspectives, all of it has been just invaluable. I'm very proud of this work. I'm very impressed with all of you stakeholders that have been involved in the process so far. So I'm looking forward to sharing it with the greater Richmond community. Is there another hand up? Looks like Patricia Robinson.
Hi, yes. So I'm the planning manager at GRTC, and I just wanted to put it out there as far as the community engagement piece goes. We're happy to help support in any way that we can. If it's just a survey link pushed out through our normal social media text alerts, we're happy to do that, or maybe a QR code at some of the high ridership stops.
Perfect. Thank you. Great,
Yeah.
Great ideas.
I know at UVA, in a study we did, they actually put posters inside the buses with a QR code that led you right to something. And so while people were sitting there in the bus, they could engage.
Yeah, I'll have to talk to marketing about that a little bit. We've had issues with that before. It either tends to be a channel card, which is too high to scan, or something that blocks the windows or the doors is obviously not going to work out either, but we might be able to find a spot.
Great, thank you. Good ideas. All right, we'll keep them coming. Like I said, I'm going to send an email out after this meeting with the link to the Conveo document and the link to the survey so that you can submit your input. And if you prefer to just email me, that's fine too. But with that, we are done. If you have any other updates you'd like to share or upcoming events or resources you want to share with this greater group of wonderful representatives, the space is yours, and I'll be on here for a while if anyone wants to stay on to talk one-on-one. Otherwise, thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to the next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Can I just say something?
Yes.
Thank you so much to the sustainability team. I can't even tell you how much I learned from like the beginning of this process and like wondering how we were going to get to the end. You guys did a fantastic job of moving us all forward. Thank you so much for my own personal development, as well as, you know, what you're doing for the Richmond community and the businesses and people that live there. So thank you very much.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for saying that. I mean, we put so much, you know, heart and soul into this. So it really, it's very rewarding to hear you say that. Thank you.
And I'll say we didn't know how we were going to get to the end either when we started. So
No.
it's very exciting.
No, it's been painful in some ways.
The heart and soul y'all put into it is very evident in what is approaching an end product. And I think we were all kind of like, but seeing it makes me think, like, I know there were bumps, but seeing it makes me go that you guys just, this would not have ever happened without y'all. So we appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff. Well, it's a collective. It's all of us. Maybe we were the glue, but it's everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you.